Hello, good afternoon. Indeed, this is a very momentous occasion and a wonderful and astounding, astonishing privilege to welcome today's guest, Mr. Zeta in my book, and he would be interpreting Charles Dickens' Hard Times, Book 1 of the Oxford Classics edition. And I'm the host and the usher and the entertainer. Okay, so we have here from the Charles Dickens Oxford Classics editions of Hard Times, Book 1 about garnering aspect. So, um, Book 1 was garnering. What was Book 1? Reaping or sowing. Book the first sowing, and book the second was um, reaping, and book the third was um, garnering or grinding. Okay, so can you debrief whatever you have had written?
Yes, introduction.
Please read aloud
Okay,
because we are not having microphones.
one of the memorable moments of hard times occurs early in Book 1. In
Okay,
Chapter
chapter 3,
3, when
when Mr.
Mr.
Gradgrind,
Gradgrind walking past
Sleary
Sally
Circus,
Circus
Booth, Circus Booth,
Booth dis- discovers his children and Louisa and Tom
Louisa
outside,
and Tom outside, striving
starving
to peep
to
in.
feed him.
Okay, so what do you think? And comment, remark about this sentence that there was Tom and Louisa who were both the children and offsprings of Mr. Thomas Gradgrind. This is Mr. Thomas Gradgrind, the portrait. Have you seen the
Yes,
painting?
yes.
Okay. So both the children had been wandering and they were having adventuresome experience with the circus, striving and thriving to peep in means to look, have a glance and glimpse, overcasted glimpse. What is your viewpoint and perspective and opinion in debriefing this explanatory note? What do you think? Can you explain these lines? Whatever you have had read, these few lines, what had happened?
One of the memorable moments of hard times occurs in Book 1.
Yeah,
In
in book
Chapter
one, in
3,
chapter three.
when Mr. Grand Grint
Okay.
walking past
Sleary
Sleary
Circus,
Circus both
Booth,
discovers his children, Louisa and Tom outside,
striving to peep
striving to
in.
peep
So
in.
they were struggling to peep in. They were endeavoring. They had been endeavoring to peep in. Okay. Let's sustain. Thomas Gradgrind, the hard-headed social purist, is astonished by this act of disobedience, as well as he might be, for it represents a direct challenge to the very principles upon which his system is based. Could you explain this about Mr. Thomas Gradgrind? Yeah, Thomas Gradgrind.
Thomas Gradgrind, the hard-headed social theorist, is astonished by the act of the disobedience, as well as he might B. For it represents a direct challenge to the very principles upon which his system is based.
Hmm. So we think that Thomas Gradgrind was. Just come aside here.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Um, we have this supposition and proposition that Thomas Gradgrind had been a disciplinarian and an authoritarian personality, visage and personage, because he was a social theorist, isn't it? And in her head-headed, what was the term? The phraseology was rhetorics, hard-headed man. What is meant by
Hard-headed man.
hard-headed man? Explain in your own language.
It means that Thomas Grine was also a hard-headed man because he is disobedient.
He despises, detests, he hates disobedience of his children.
Yes,
That is, you'd like to say. Okay. Um, and what kind of a man was he, Thomas Gradgrind?
Thomas Gregor. He was a man of very disobedience and challenging.
Challenging man. Okay, he was a challenging man. His children have literally, please read the next, so on and so forth.
His children have literally and
Metaphorically,
metaphorically found a
found a
loophole,
loophole.
stolen,
Sullen, emotionally
stolen,
stunted,
emotionally
and
stunted, and
inarticulate. They
inarticulate.
still evince an
They still
instinctive
evince an
awareness
instinctive
that life
awareness
holds
that
hidden
life
glories,
holds hidden glories, not shattered,
not catered
not catered
for by their
for by
fathers'
their fathers' black and
blinkered
blinkered
ideas.
ideas.
So, in these loophole, the children metaphorically they are having mm, dark and gloomy, sullen and um, pallid, and we can say that's annoying and disappointment, sentimentality, um, unhappy and sad, and be unpleasant towards people, refusing to smile. They are emotionally stunted and inarticulate. That means they are not having creative faculty and imagine. They are not after imagination, and they are still having still evince an instinctive awareness that life holds hidden glories. What do you mean by hidden glories? Life holds hidden glories.
Hidden glories means it's a typically thing that we can forget. Actually, it means that about his children, he has hidden a disobedience.
But the children becoming disobedient for appreciating those hidden glories of life.
No, actually, it is told that it can be, but sometimes there is a hidden thing in the story.
So, hidden thing. And what are those hidden
Actually,
glories?
glories is typically
Hidden glories. Hidden glories
these are disobedience.
can be the um, desires, lustrous desires,
No,
which are
actually,
spellbinding, enchanting, magnanimous. Okay, let's digress. Typically,
I
of
think it's
Dickens. Please
astonished.
read, yeah, astonish, the astonishment, adornments of
Yes,
life,
yes, yes,
which glorify and magnify,
yes,
dignify life
yes.
in artistic aura. Please read on, so on and so on and so forth. The next paragraph, typically of Dickens. Have you got the line?
His children
Typically of Dickens. Where
typically.
is the line? Typically of Dickens.
Well, I'm searching. A
Yeah.
yes, this.
So what happened?
typically of Dickens and particular thematic
Thematic import,
important of hard
import of
times.
hard
The
times.
scenes is sense
The scene is
sen, sin is
okay.
sensived
Okay.
sensived
The scene is
in a visual, visually the-
conceived in a
the-
vividly theatrical
theatrical
manner.
manner.
Mhm.
The characteristics are
The
posted
characters are posed
in a visually
visually
realized picture
realized
or tableau,
picture or tableau.
different,
Their
differing
differing outlooks
and
generate
outly
dramatic
generate dramatic
conflict
conflict
between them,
between them
and
and the representative
representative nature
nature
of these
of these
viewpoints
viewpoints
embodies
embodies general
general
issues
issues.
in a concentrated dramatic
Moment, okay.
moment according to the most of the variable
Venerable traditions of
traditions of
stagecraft.
stagecraft.
Okay, Mehboob, Mr. Mehboob.
Yes.
Typically of Dickens we have heard and of particular thematic import of hard times. The scene is conceived in a vividly theatrical manner. The characters are posed in a visually realized picture or tableau. Their differing outlooks generate dramatic conflict between them, and the representative nature of these viewpoints embodies, exemplifies, embellish, and even epitomize the general issues in a concentrated dramatic moment, according to the most venerable traditions of stagecraft. What do you reckon of these lines in terms of thematic and explanatory and elucidatory um, explanations?
Actually embodies and
Mhm.
generatic generatic
So,
embody typically
genre of hard times with the generic viewpoints and the vivid, lively descriptions and picturesque
issues
panoramic issues. Okay.
issues
Okay. All right. The scene involves three. Please read on. So on and so on. Sustain your
the
reading.
theme
The scene.
the scene involves three the of the principal actors in a story and points of word not
Points
only
forward not only to the
to the
central crisis of
central
hard
crisis of
times,
hard times
in which the
in which
repressed
the
longings
restless longings of Tom and Louisa at last burst
burst out.
out, also to the book's resolution, in which
Book's resolution.
lives and no hopes are
Shattered lives and
shattered,
hopes are salvaged.
salvaged by the active agency
Agency of the
of the
circus
circus
proprietor,
provider.
Mr. Sleary,
Mr.
and the clown's
Sleary and the
daughter,
clown's daughter,
CZ Jupe.
Sassy Jupe.
Okay, okay. So this scene involves three of the principal characters and the actors in the story and points forward in the novel, and not only to those central characters having Tom and Louisa, but they burst out to the book's resolution. The book is having an ambition, Dickens having subjective and
And
objective
yes,
resolution in which
and
shattered lives and hopes are salvaged, means redeemed, and they are achieving acknowledgement of supplication and redemption, and we can say that um, salvation by the active agency of the circus proprietor, the entrepreneur Mr. Sleary, and the clown's daughter CZ Jupe. What do you think of these two figures, Mr. Sleary and CZ Jupe?
her repressed longings and Tom Louisa and book's resolution.
Okay. So life would be tedious,
and
boring, and
shattered.
monotonous and shattered if we don't enjoy the um, pleasures of the circus, fancy, and imagination. Mhm. Hard times, please read on. Carry on with your reading.
Hard times, yes, hard times. Mr.
Is a
Says
novel,
is a novel
novel concerned.
novel concerned by Tom Louisa and Tom.
Have a glimpse at your dissertation, at your paper, and then say,
It
Hard Times is a
ran
novel.
Hard Time is a novel.
Where is that line?
Wait, I can search.
Here. It is a novel
It is a novel concentrated
concerned
to shake and
to shake some
people
people.
in a terrible
Terrible
mistakes
mistakes
of
of these days,
days last,
as Dickens
as Dickens
declared in a
declared
letter
the letter re- requesting permission to delegate the work in
to
Thomas
Thomas Carlyle. Okay,
Carlyle.
so on these note, context. Thomas Carlyle, The Letters of Charles Dickens, edition Walter Dexter, non such edition Bloomsbury, non such 1938, the second 567 page, and the values of carefree childhood and of expansive imagination, which are juxtaposed to the blighting influence of narrowly conceived rationality, find their appropriate image in the object of Tom and Louisa's curiosity, the circus. Could you debrief commentary of these lines and the values of carefree childhood? You are having this line?
Yes.
Yeah, and the
And the values of carefree
childhood.
childhood and
Mhm.
of expansive imagination, which are
Expansive
jux,
imagination,
jux, juxtab,
juxtaposed.
juxtaposed to blank
Meheboob, juxtaposition means to bring
voice.
two contradictory
Yes,
ideals, okay,
yes.
and two dissimilar things being compared, comparison and contrast, okay,
Imagination, which are juxtaposed to the
to the blighting
lightning
influence of
influence of
narrowly
narrowly
conceived
conceived rationality,
rationality, find
find
their
their
appropriate
appropriate
images
margin
on the
in
object
the
in the
object
object
of
of Tom
Tom
and
and
Louisa's
Louisa's
curiosity, the
curiosity,
circus.
the
What
circus.
do so? Would you like to debrief this comment about Tom and Louisa's curiosity, the circus? Please debrief.
About it was about Tom and Louisa and
Mhm.
about Grand his uncle,
Thomas Gradgrind was their father.
their father, and it was about exposed and introduction and
Mm-hmm.
emotionally and grindly,
Mm-hmm.
typically,
Mm-hmm. Okay.
and in
Mm-hmm.
expressed in represent representative.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was about
Okay, thank you so much for listening to us and hearing our tidings of the great of hard times, Charles Dickens' um, famous best-selling novel from the serialization of the household household words, and we would be soon back with another commentary seminary or plenary session or a meeting or discussion conference as with hard times. sustaining the themes and motifs of the novel, as we had been reading and analyzing the commentary on, in terms of the prefatory note. Thank you so much. Goodbye.
Bye
Adieu.
bye.
Farewell. Have a great day. Thanks for staying in tune with us.